As we said on Tuesday, we've been delving into the nature of suffering, and in an attempt to look behind suffering and find the sublime mystery, the law that's relative to the state of suffering. But on Tuesday, before getting into that serious business, and in fact it didn't come about, there was the need to make a confession, but it's kind of what you've been talking about. And I made a huge realization that everybody shared my secret, because there I was sitting thinking that I was impelled to reveal to everyone what my big secret was. And everybody knew. I just want to test it out to see that it was not really bright, because we might have been in a state of, how it is after meditation, we're all in a very state. I just want to check the water, if that's all right with you. This so-called secret, we look around at all the effigies of the Buddha, we've been everywhere, all of these places, and you see the Buddha he's got this kind of little smile on his face, as though he's got some kind of secret. I thought I shared that secret, but now I realize everybody knows. But to demonstrate what this secret was, there's a little story that was told, and the story is about a spiritual teacher who imparted his truths by telling stories. So one day he was walking by a stream with one of his students, and he was telling him a story which had embedded in it one of these sublime truths. But after the story was over, the student said to the master, "Master, excuse me, but would you mind if I asked you a question?" The master said, "No." He said, "Master, tell me, how is it that you know exactly what story to tell in any given situation?" And the master said, "Well, let me tell you a story." He said, there was a prince who wanted to become the greatest marksman in the land. So he went to the greatest teacher he could find, and he learned the art of bow and arrow, archery. And he did indeed become the greatest archer in the land. But after his lessons were completed, the master couldn't teach him anymore. He was riding his horse back along a roadway which would lead to his palace eventually, when he happened to pass through a village. And in that village, he noticed a huge barn. And on the side of the barn were 100 bullseyes, and in the middle of every bullseye there was an arrow. And the prince stopped his horse and said, "I've never seen anything like this in my life. 100 bullseyes and 100 arrows right in the center. I want to meet that marksman. I couldn't do that." But it so happened that there was a little boy passing by, and he kind of snickered a little bit, and he said to the prince, "Oh, that's Noor, he's the town fool." Oh, the prince said, "No, I need to meet this man. He's the best I couldn't do that myself. He's the best marksman I have ever come across." Oh, and the little boy said, "Oh, he's just an idiot." He said, "He fires the arrows and then he draws the circle around them." And you know what? In asking each one of those who were there at that little meditation, they all knew what I was talking about. Talk about a secret. Well, let's blown that out of the water. So I can see by your reaction that you know too. So but it is, and it was, such a joy and a delight to hear what it was that meant for each one of those who were there. But before we perhaps do that, we have to get back to the serious business of this law that's behind suffering. Life is suffering, as we know. And there's a very simple story. And we can but wonder, and we just have to test it out again, how this secret and our awareness of the law related to suffering goes together. So let's put them together and see what happens. There's an old Siddha story that talks about a poor man called Kukuripa. Now Kukuripa, even though he was very poor, he was a very, very, very happy man, because when it came for him the time to be married, he wedded a woman who was gracious and beautiful and fulfilled beyond his greatest dreams about conjugal bliss. He learned the ways of sexuality and the pleasures of the flesh that kept his life in a state of bliss. Even though his life was hard, he had this wonderful aura of bliss around him because of this meeting, this sexual interaction he had with his beautiful wife. But we know the ways of life. A terrible, terrible fever passed through their village, and his beautiful wife died in his arms. Well, he, as we can well relate to, was totally and absolutely shattered by this. He carried her body to the cremation ground, but he could not bear to confine her to the flames. He sat rocking her body in his arms, just bewailing the horror and the pathos of losing this blessed thing which he realized was the key to the pleasures of life itself. Now, as he was sitting there holding the dead body of his wife, it so happened that a Dakini came along, and she asked him what it was that was troubling him. Of course, it was quite obvious, but she asked that poignant question to get the response from him, and of course his response was, "I've lost all in my life. My mind is shattered." And she said, "Well, in this situation, you know that everything is finite. Everything has a beginning and an end. Life is samsara. Samsara is suffering, so suffering is therefore life. In this situation, would you be willing to practice a sadhana?" He said, "Oh, I have no mind with which to think. But please, if you could just alleviate this suffering, I will do whatever it is that you tell me to do." So the Dakini initiated him. And this is a significant moment, this moment of initiation. The Dakini initiated him and introduced him to the possibility of looking in to the ultimate pleasure of life and taking that pleasure beyond its experience of being the bliss and that which colored all of life into the next stage of seeing that bliss as life, and then seeing life as being brought into that state of sublime emptiness that lies behind all things. Now, Kukuripa had no need to even think about focusing his mind on this stage, one leading into the other, because the suffering itself, arising out of what was once a pleasure, took him directly into his sadhana. And as the stories go, and there are many of them, after practicing his sadhana for a number of years, he became that vast emptiness. And in that vast emptiness, this ordinary poor man became one of the great teachers who lived a life in which he was able to impart and guide others until he himself left the earthly realms. before asking the question, how do these two, the secret that we all share, and our awareness of what the law behind suffering is, and how they go together, we can ask the question, why is it that in moments of crisis in our life, in moments of tragedy, in the moments of the ultimate, whether it be pleasure or pain, is a right moment? That moment in the cemetery, holding the body of his wife, where his life had been shattered, his mind had been shattered. There was that right moment when initiation could take place. And after that initiation, a natural moving into the stages that bring one to that is described in many ways. First of all, if we look at this, if we look at our own life, at those crisis moments, those moments of shattering, of whatever it was, we can also recognize what naturally follows. And when we move into that awareness of the naturalness, then we have a possibility of being able to know this law. But it is related to the secret, isn't it? How is it with us now? Our life, and recognizing it as that arrow. The arrow is shot, as the saying goes. Life continues in its trajectory. And we're constantly drawing the circles until they go together. But isn't it very simple? When we express, as was done on Tuesday, what is the meaning of drawing the arrow after the circles? All of us have a means of expressing it. So let's keep it simple.
It's the action of the mind that draws the circles around the bullseye.
Yes.
All the time. And pain and bliss are just the same, it's just the same movement. And if that becomes strong enough, we are becoming aware of the stillness. And yeah.
Right. So does that, like the effigies of the Buddha, make you smile? Put a little smile on your face?
It's funny.
Yes.
It's also feel reminded of someone saying resting in the unborn. If you're resting behind shooting the arrows, we can just watch the arrows fly, investing in the unborn, and rather than painting more and more bullseyes.
And trying to shoot at them.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for you?
It reminded me in that book, I think it's that The Journey Home, where they have open the map as you are here.
Yes. Yes.
You are the bullseye.
You are the bullseye.
For me, it's a kind of surrender to wherever it lands is the right thing.
Uh-huh.
So wherever I'm going is the right place.
Is the right place.
Whatever happens is the right thing I need to experience.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. So in that we answer the question also, what happens when stillness and movement meet? And there we are. The secret automatically arises. The circle is drawn.
For me, it's like, you know, you have the first arrow, and then this is how I imagine, like the first arrow, so then he goes and draws a line around that, and then he gets the next arrow. So for me, it's like, just say like, there's the first arrow, that's say whoever's teaching or whatever,
Yeah.
and then from that all the others come, and the circle is different situations are drawn to different arrows,
Absolutely.
because one arrow couldn't do it all.
So then we have to ask then, what are the arrows?
Intention.
Intention.
And behind intention,
Acceptance.
behind acceptance.
God's will.
Although what arises spontaneously out of consciousness, the arrow is just what happens when stillness meets movement, and there's an action, and that action happens, and then it's our mind that seeks to make sense of the action that has already happened.
So what is this drawing a circle around the arrow? What does that really mean?
The ripples from the action. The
Okay.
ripples that come out.
It's not a mind coming in and drawing
No, it's
a story
the
around.
reactions.
It's the reactions. As you so very aptly described it, a stone being thrown into the pond, and of course so many different.
So it's sort of landing in awareness, and from that arises action, reaction, whatever happens.
If you see it as such.
Is it like attention follows movement?
Tension follows.
Attention, like our attention is drawn to movement.
Can you separate them? When you have absolute attention, is there movement?
There's maybe perceived movement.
Yes. When you have awareness of the movement of life, what is awareness? And what is being aware?
Awareness is not moving.
Absolutely not. No. So an intention is relative to awareness, isn't it?
I just find it really interesting because it was said that the bullseye could be painted. The bullseye is the mind making up a story after the action. And also what you said was the ripple effect, you know, like what often is referred to as the law of karma, like action and reaction. And I just wonder if those two are connected, then karma only applies if there's an intent, a personal intent. So otherwise, if you stay in the unborn, there's no karma.
To get back to this question that arises from the telling of these two little anecdotes, what is the relationship between the two? This secret, so-called, and the nature of suffering, life. Remembering that behind what's occurring over these last weeks and months is still our need to know what it is that arises out of the meeting of stillness and movement. So look at this so-called secret. And the story, the movement of life, recognizing it as a continuous state of suffering, everything struggling to survive, to achieve, to become. So it's bringing you right down to this place right now where you are accepting that you can sit with that enigmatic smile as the Buddha wears, knowing this secret, that there's no place but here. And be aware of the movement of life as a struggle, suffering, samsara. What happens when they meet in you now?
We can stand back, we can observe. For me, actually, the bullseye, putting the circle around the bullseye is more of an acceptance of that action has happened, that's finished, put a circle around.
Okay.
Move on, you know.
Okay.
Next bullseye, acceptance, happened, finished.
Okay.
And stand back, you know,
Okay.
watch.
Okay. Now we're cooking. You don't put me out of a job here, don't you? I'm only 74. But in the meantime, recognize that we do know that it's a secret. We share that smile of Buddha. Because the ultimate saying of Buddhism is suffering is bliss. What does it mean?
It's only through suffering you can get to the bliss.
That's right.